Unity is a principle-based faith tradition. Principle-based faith tradition. Principle is related to law, spiritual law. We do not conceive of God, source, spirit, as a personality, a moody, capricious personality at all. Does that make unity more of a mind science, or does that mean something else? When we talk about spiritual law, we may indeed think, well, that sounds kind of mental, and principle is something that I can apply, but I personally need as someone once told me, I need a God with a face on it. And I get that. And that's where the grace aspect of God comes in, because grace is something that Charles Fillmore, the co-founder of the Unity Movement, said is the higher aspect of the law, a higher expression of the law. So we may be principle-based in our approach towards our spiritual life and incorporating spiritual law, but we, in our humanity and in our density of life experience through being a human being, having this experience, we need love, do we not? And so today is about love. And I remember years ago when I was a social worker for the state of Arizona, I was a CPS investigator, which was a tough job. I did it for 12 years. And I would enter into people's homes at times under dire circumstances, and there were children in the home that I had to make an assessment as to whether or not the parents were suitable to create an environment that would provide a thriving for the child. And if not, then their services could be placed in that family so that the situation could improve. But I do recall on quite a few instances I had to remove children from their homes. And it really was due to the fact that there was not enough love. The parents were not dialed into what it meant to love and nurturing the child. And so there had to be an ongoing conversation before reunification could happen for them. We all need this love, do we not? And I remember probably 20 years ago, I was the board president of Unity of Sedona Church. And one of the co-ministers, I would serve during Sunday service, and I would go up and give the meditation. Helen Pope, who was the co-minister at that time, she was in her late 60s at that time, very, very aware, very wise woman. Had been a spiritual teacher in other faith traditions before she went into Unity. And as I walked up onto the platform and she walked down, because she had been giving some of the announcements and things that were going on, she whispered to me, she stopped me, and she said, "Bruce, remember to love the people. Love the people." Those were the last words I ever heard her say to me, because 2 days later she was sitting on the side of her bed and she had a heart failure and just collapsed, fell back on her bed, and made her transition. And those words from her were really, at this moment, the only words that I ever remember her saying to me, other than hello, how are you, and so forth, working out mundane things in the church. Love the people. And that has been a ground of being intention, or ethic for me in ministry. That whatever we do here, whatever programming we have, whatever the Sunday message is, or the music, or anything that we may have midweek, it's all about this ground of being premise. Love the people. Because we can all come in here and have a persona where our lives are working and we're doing just fine, and maybe we are. Maybe we're going through a cycle where everything is really good right now, and that's great. You're working with spiritual principle. You're working with spiritual law. And then there are other cycles, are there not, where we have this time where we intensely need love. We intensely need to be cared for and cherished because we haven't been. That there are people in this very room right now who probably haven't had a hug or a touch all week long. And maybe they come here for that. And that is very, very important. Very, very important. Love the people. In the book, The Prophet by Kellogg, some of you may be aware of this book. It's one of the books that I was introduced to in my early 20s. And Kellogg was a heart-centered writer. He wrote this book, The Prophet. There was a figure in The Prophet, this man called Al-Mustafa, the chosen and the beloved, who was a dawn unto his own day. And he spent 12 years with the people of Orphalese. And at the end of the 12 years, his ship was coming in and he was going to take his leave. And the people of Orphalese said, "Speak to us. Speak to us of life. Speak to us of what is important." And he spoke to them on marriage and children and giving, and on one's work and joy and sorrow and freedom and pain and friendship and self-knowledge and prayer and beauty and religion and other things. But Kellogg made a point that the first thing that he spoke of, the most important thing, was love. The power of love. And I don't know about you, but that has been the life essence of meaning for this life experience. We can be tremendously achieved in our career and seen from the outside as a person that has it all together. But if we don't have love in our lives, we're in great need all the time. At least that's my experience. I need love. How about you? Maybe that's why I'm in ministry, because it's such a loving thing to do. Such a wonderful vocation of exchange and interaction with people. And that I remember when I was in social work years ago, I would say to myself, I can only be so loving in this because I have to be professional and I have to have my clear professional boundaries, and I can't extend my heart and my love as I would like. And I can't wait till someday when I can get into ministry and I can be more loving to people. And how important that has been over the last 17 years of ministry. To really listen, to really hold space, to really pray from my heart, and to see, to truly see the good that kind of love and care brings. It helps people to flower. It helps people to remember who they are. wanted to read a little bit from the prophet on love and share with you. There was a woman named Almitra in Orphalese who asked Al-Mustafa to speak on it, on love. She said, "Speak to us of love." And he raised his head and looked upon the people, and there fell a stillness upon them. And with a great voice he said, "When love beckons you, follow him. Though his ways are hard and steep, and when his wings enfold you, yield to him. Though the sword hidden among his pinions may wound you, and when he speaks to you, believe in him. Though his voice may shatter your dreams as the north wind lays waste the garden. For even as love crowns you, so shall love crucify you. Even as he is for your growth, so is he for your pruning. Even as he ascends to your height and caresses your tenderest branches that quiver in the sun, so shall he descend to your roots and shake them in their clinging to the earth. Like sheaves of corn he gathers you unto himself. He threshes you to make you naked. He sifts you to free you from your husks. He grinds you to whiteness. He kneads you until you are pliant. And then he assigns you to his sacred fire, that he may become sacred bread for God's sacred feast. All these things shall love do unto you, that you may know the secrets of your heart, and in that knowledge become a fragment of life's heart. And it seems oftentimes that you and I are fragments of life's heart, and that in a way we are coming back home to our oneness with life's heart. I want to share a dream with you. I've shared it here once before, but it has so much to do with what I'm speaking about today. About 10 years ago, I was going through a dry period. And I remember one night I had this dream. And I was in a university setting, and I was my last class before I was going to graduate from college. It was a statistics class. And I thought to myself, I'm never going to get through this. I don't do well with statistics. And then there was a young woman that came up to me, an anima figure, a feminine energy that came up to me in the dream. And she said, "I will help you." And in that moment, everything changed. And I was outside of that room. And I was running around, literally running around the college. And the whole of the university started to beat like a heartbeat. Boom, 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 boom. The whole place was so powerful. And I remember running up to people and going, "Can't you feel the heartbeat of God? Can't you feel that heartbeat of God?" And this one other woman came up to me. She was an administrator of the college, and she said, "You can't behave like that here. You can't act like that here. This is a university." And I took her head in my hands and I said, "Can't you feel the heartbeat of God?" And I was just so alive with this power. And I remember waking up from the dream, feeling so joyful and so happy, because the higher aspect of me helped me to remember what this was all about. This whole process of spirituality, this whole process of our spiritual growth, and it's to remember that we are part of God. Perhaps a fragment in our knowing and our understanding at this moment, but that we are part of the divine. And so I remember getting up. It was in the middle of the night, maybe 2 a.m., and I just was so happy. I was so jazzed. Jennifer kept sleeping. I didn't wake her up. I kind of wanted to, though. Don't you get it? Can't you hear it? It's the heartbeat of God. And I know that everybody in this room has a desire for that kind of connection, that kind of love, that kind of presence and power. And many of you in this room have had these experiences like I have, where the veils have been removed. And we have this divine remembrance of who it is that we are as spiritual beings, living in a spiritual universe, governed by spiritual law. In the early 1900s, there was an influx of spiritual energy on the planet. And maybe the Spirit knew, because the 20th century was kind of a tough go in many ways. Huge expansion, huge challenges. So many authors and people came forward to bring forth inner knowledge, as well as for children to remember. The Wizard of Oz was one such work that was written for children in 1900. Dorothy is part of us. Dorothy is part of our feminine nature. It gets caught up in a whirlwind of life experience and is brought into a whole nother place. And she goes on her journey to find out about wisdom and about love and about courage. All the while, then, she remembers there's no place like home. She came home to herself. She remembered who she was, to her heart. Gibran says in his work, The Prophet, when you love, you should not say, God is in my heart, but rather, I am in the heart of God. I am in the heart of God. What great guidance, what great input. This book was written in the first years of the 20th century also. That if you and I have a felt knowing that we are in the heart of God, why should we fear anything? There's no reason for us to fear anything. If I'm in the heart of God, I can feel the heartbeat of God. He writes in his book, writing from his heart, to wake at dawn with a winged heart and give thanks for another day of loving. So these authors, including the Fillmores, including Ernest Holmes, including Emma Curtis Hopkins, including all of these pioneers of new thought, are telling us that we live and move and have our being in God all the time. That's what the Spirit is constantly reminding us, helping us to remember. And I looked at the word remember. to remember, to bring ourselves back into a membership. That is what the word religion means, to circle back around and to reunify, to reintegrate with Source. And we have made up all kinds of stories about what religion is supposed to mean. It just means coming back into and being in a felt knowing of God's presence, that we are in God all of the time, that there is no separation. In New Thought, it is said that we are an idea, that mankind, humankind, is a divine idea in the mind of God. Much like being a fragment of life's heart. All of these pointers are telling us of the actual nature of what it is that we are. Emmett Fox, who wrote Sermon on the Mount, a great assistive book for those in AA over the years, he said, if we could love enough, we would be the most powerful beings in the world. If we could love enough. So it really gets down to, if you choose, if we choose, and I choose, to remove that which is not love from our lives so that we can allow this essence to express through us. And so I have 3 exercises with us today. Not hard. The first one is to think of someone in your life that has fostered love for you. Think of that person for a moment. Who has helped you to blossom in your own life? You have somebody in your mind? Send them love. They may have passed on. They may be sitting right next to you. Send them love. Next one is a little bit harder. Think of someone that has been a challenge in your life. Someone that has been really difficult to love. I want to share with you something that last September, Jennifer and I went to Cottonwood, where we had our last church. And I was asked to share some ideas and so on at the Sunday service, which I did. And there was a man there that we had rented a house from. And it was very difficult to love, because he wanted us to do certain things there that really wasn't our responsibility to take care of that house. And we didn't leave on good terms. And I hadn't seen him in probably 8 or 9 months. But at the end of the service, he came up to me and he grabbed my hand. And I shook his hand, but he wouldn't let go. I said to myself, okay, I'll go with this. Because on a personality level, it was very difficult to be with this person. But then in his grip, in his continual effort, I felt myself soften. And he just looked at me. For probably about 10 seconds, he was just holding on to my hand. And I said, okay, I'm going to let go. I'm going to allow this to happen. Because he was endeavoring to forgive, to love me, and to heal the past, which we did. I just held on to his hand, and he held on to mine. and there was a healing there. This is the power of love. This is what love desires for us in our lifetime. It's the most powerful force of all. And when we think of practicing the presence of God, you know, there's a lot of content within the teachings that says the dynamic laws of healing, the dynamic laws of forgiving, prosperity, all these things. But there is one single law that is behind all of it. And that's the dynamic law of love and oneness. It is the glue that holds the whole universe together. It desires for us to let go of our grievances so that we can stand in our grandeur, the grandeur of being. We're holding ourselves back through our grievances. I count myself as one of those people too. What do I need to do to let go, to get humble, to allow Spirit to move through me? The third exercise that I would invite us to do is to see this planet filled with love. To see planet Earth filled with love. This Earth School is a very diverse and dynamic place. But it needs love so much. We have the capacity in this moment to love, to contribute to all the people. Think of the thousands and perhaps even millions of people on this planet right now that are in prayer, that are holding a space for love's presence to override negativity and hatred and grievances. We can be part of that healing, and we are part of it right now. I invite you to see the planet within your own inner life, in your own inner vision. Just embrace with just divine love. That all people will start seeing each other as souls instead of personalities and different natures. You are a being of love. And you may say, well, I don't know about that. My life is just filled with all kinds of anger and sadness most of the time. I don't feel that love. But you're here. You're here in this room. I would say that your being here is evidence of your desire for a deeper love in your life. We've made mistakes. But if you look at the word mistake, it's just a mistake. We can retake. A retake into love, to forgive, and to let go. I would like to invite us, and some of you don't know this, but Unity has a tradition of affirmation, of the power of the spoken word. That the power of the spoken word has a formative ability to change things. How many people are familiar with affirmations in here? About 70, 80% of you. That's great. So I would like to just say an affirmation and have you repeat it with me. I choose to love. Together? I am a vessel of love. I allow myself to be loved. I am held in the heart of love. There are no chains that bind me. I release them all to love now. Okay, so that sounded somewhat funereal. Sounded like we were saying those in a very old, dark church somewhere. I choose to love. I am a vessel of love. I allow myself to be loved. I am held in the heart of love. There are no chains that bind me. I release all of this to God. To love. Hallelujah. See, we got to get fired up. We have to go beyond the thought vibration that we're in order for real change to happen. Thought vibration is a very important aspect of the spiritual path. That's why we're always being coached, myself included, to be mindful of our thoughts, because thoughts are prayers, and we are always praying. Does that mean we have to be neurotic about our thoughts? No. That's another erroneous thought. But to realize that we're spiritual beings and that the power of the Word has a formative power, and that you and I are on this path together. I was looking at the word empathy the other day. Empathy means to walk with. Sympathy means to stand in looking at somebody, thinking that they're less, or agreeing with them, commiserating with them about their limitation. Empathy is walking with someone. We walk together on this path in light and truth. We let go and release that which is not true so that we stand within our actual nature. We practice the presence of God so that we are victorious over our limitations. And if you don't feel that you can do that at this time, it's okay. But practice, practice, practice. That's what it's all about. Reframing the thought vibration that we carry within our consciousness so that we may know the truth, and the truth may set us free. Amen.